Saludos a toda la afición de Lucha Libre Online. Este que les habla es Michael Morales Torres, integrante del equipo de Lucha Libre Online. Y tenemos el enorme privilegio de presentarles a nuestro invitado especial en la noche de hoy, en directo desde Japón, pero representando a toda la familia de India. Baliyan Akki llega aquí a Lucha Libre Online representando a Choco Pro Wrestling. Baliyan, it's an honor for us to have you as our guest. How are you doing today, man?
Oh, thank you very, very much for having me. Thank you, of course, all of the Spanish fans as well. Thank you very much for having me. You have no idea how much I wish I would have learned Spanish at the same time I learned Japanese. You have no idea. To my ears, it sounds so romantic. Like you really can't imagine how good it sounds to me when I hear you do the intro in the beginning. I'm like, God damn, I should have learned Spanish as well.
Man, I mean, you didn't know if I was ordering chicken or I was doing the intro. You could never know. That's the magic of Spanish. And I'm just kidding, man.
Of course, I know.
Let's start speaking about that fact, man. You speak, I believe, Hindi, English, and Japanese, correct?
Yeah, big three. That I speak, if I have to count out, I speak three from India. That would be like, let's say four. I speak Hindi and Punjabi, because Punjab is it's very close to Hindi. And I've actually lived in Punjab for like 2.5 years. So I can speak, at least understand most of it. Speaking wise, I might be a bit off. I speak Haryanvi, which is a sub language of Hindi, you could say. But outside of India, I speak English and I speak Japanese.
Let me translate this. Él habla inglés, Harabi, Punjab también, o Punjabi, que es el idioma de la región de donde salió el mismo Cali, por darles un ejemplo. Él vivió ahí 2 años y medio. También habla, como le digo, esos tres idiomas de India, que son Hindi, Harabi y Punjabi, y también te habla inglés y japonés. O sea, este hombre está a las millas con todo. Man, let's start speaking about your career, because you are an Indian wrestler, and
yes.
You're an Indian international wrestler. That's not very common to see.
From India. Yes, like it's quite weird, because Indian talent in wrestling is not that rare. We have always had Indian talent because we have always had Indian people all over the world. We are, let's just say, a very international community. Like there's plenty in Europe, we have very deep heritage, especially in Europe, because of our connections with the British. But in America as well, there has been very, very deep communities about India. So we have always had Indian wrestlers. But for a wrestler to be an Indian wrestler from India, learned in India, made in India, and then become an international wrestler, now that's a wall that nobody has jumped ever before me.
Man, and that's an interesting fact, because you're now living in Japan, but every career has a humble beginning. And I want to know your humble beginning inside this industry. What hooked you up in order to decide to be a pro wrestler, for a living? Because it is a romanticized profession where people can either say, oh, you're following your passion, or, oh, you're going to die of hunger. So how did this...
At the same time.
how do you make it work?
You can literally live your dream, live the passion, and die of hunger at the same time. Like, I'm living my dream, but there's no food. Like, I don't have an apartment, but this is my dream. Don't you dare say something. So like I decided, you could say I decided to be a wrestler when I finished my high school, which was in 2012. 2012, I couldn't commit to anything. So I wasn't stupid. I was in quite a good school and everything. But nothing excited me. And I remember I falling in love in wrestling, not really because of like pure wrestling. I loved, because there was no other promotion in India than WWE. I didn't even know the name professional wrestling. I didn't know the name. I only knew WWE. Even to this day, if I go back to my home and I say, what do you do? People ask me, what do you do? And I go, I wrestle. And they go, what? I never saw you in like, because wrestling means Olympic wrestling in India. They have no connection. Like if I'm in America, I say I'm a wrestler. I'm like a WWE style wrestler. They have to say Olympic wrestling because that's not the predominant sport. So I have to say, no joke, WWE, for them to understand what I do. So I say, you know WWE, right? They go, yes, that's what I do. They go, what? And then there's like the whole 30-minute explanation I have to do. the same questions. But so I decided to, because I really felt like there was no other complete entertainment. It has live action, it has comedy, it was romance was in there was betrayals, there was friends, and they were like backstage people fighting each other, and there was actual action. So in my mind, I couldn't think of a more thrilling way of entertainment. I really thought this was the complete show. Like there was nothing that was outside of that show. There was nothing that was not possible. And it was really intriguing to me. So I decided, and also I legit thought, and this is not a joke, that actually tells you how stupid I am, but I legit thought that there was no tougher thing that I could decide to be as a goal. Like there was no other profession. There was no profession in the world, in India, while as an Indian 17 and a half year old boy, that I could decide to be, that would be harder than becoming a professional wrestler. Because I searched there was internet, and I could access the internet. I was at least smart enough that I knew about the internet, even while there was barely an internet in India at that point. So I checked, and there was no wrestling school or promotion in India. So there was, when I was thinking of becoming a wrestler, there was no active person in a at that point, 1.3 billion people country. There were not a single person who was trying to be a professional wrestler. When I decided to be a professional wrestler, I didn't even know how to be a wrestler. Like, what do? Do you just go to the gym and like work out and become pumped like Triple H to be a wrestler? I don't know what you do to be a wrestler. I literally had no idea. So I checked, how can you be a wrestler? Nobody knows. What wrestlers do other than WWE? Nobody knows. And I go, let's try. I'll at least give it a 1 year, at least like a drop year before college or whatever. I was so stupid to decide when I decided to do wrestling that I didn't even apply to a single college. My friends were furious with me. Like, what are you going to do? I don't know. They'll university? I'm like, definitely not. That's a not. I don't really do how and what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to go anywhere else. And well, I think that stupidness is what got me where I am today. Most likely.
Man, this is an inspiring story because basically every teenager can relate to this. Let me briefly translate this to Spanish. Baliyan Akki decide ingresar a la industria de la lucha libre cuando no había lucha libre en India. Solo había WWE. No hay indies, no hay pro wrestling, no hay nada. No. WWE, más nada. Entonces, cuando él decide ingresar a la industria, él estaba en high school, tenía buenas notas y todo, tenía todas las posibilidades de entrar a una buena universidad, y ocurre lo siguiente: 17 años y medio, nada ya le llamaba la atención, nada le apasionaba lo suficiente, solamente una cosa: WWE. Entonces, ¿qué rayos hago? ¿Cómo ingreso por primera vez a la industria que tanto amo si no hay una base en mi país? No hay escuela, no hay nada. Ok, ¿qué hago? Busco en el gimnasio, busco como ir al gimnasio y ponerme fuerte como Triple H. O sea, ¿qué rayos? ¿Qué onda? ¿Cómo procede esto? Entonces, ahora es bien gracioso por el hecho de que cuando él ingresa, él dice, sí, hay lucha libre ahora mismo, luchadores indios internacionales, pero antes de él no había ninguno que había dado, nacido en India, criado en India, que haya dado el salto, no había ninguno. Él es el primero en hacerlo. Y es bastante interesante porque cuando él regresa a su casa, que su familia le pregunta, what do you do for a living? ¿Qué tú haces para vivir? Pues no le puedo decir pro wrestling o lucha libre porque no saben. WWE. Oh, WWE. Y ahí entonces tengo que explicarle poco a poco cómo funcionan las cosas, cuáles son las fases, qué es la lucha libre independiente, y tener toda esa conversación con personas como su familia. Y en un inicio hablamos bromeando como que, ok, esto es una profesión bastante romantizada. Puedes o morirte de hambre para unas personas, o para otras personas seguir tu sueño. Y es como él dice, pues a veces que no tengo un apartamento, pero estoy siguiendo mi sueño, o no tengo comida, pero estoy siguiendo mi sueño. Puedes hacerla toda a la misma vez. Obviamente en modo de broma, en este punto de su carrera está mucho más estable. And without having anything in your basis to go and pursue something, you're still dead. It's like pursuing, with the respect of the people, like pursuing a religion or pursuing something that you cannot see at all. Literally, you cannot see what you're pursuing because it doesn't exist in your country physically.
Yes.
What's the next step, man? What's the next thing?
The most frustrating thing was and to this day is, now there's like plenty of venues, of course,
Mhm.
is because it was the second most famous sport. To this day, India is a 1.4 billion country
Yeah,
now. And to this day, after cricket,
obviously.
which is a literally religion in India, like no joke, Sachin Tendulkar, who's the best player from India about in cricket, is a literal god. If I say in Hindi in my country and I say Sachin is a god, and I say that, let's just say in front of like 100,000 people, there'll barely be like, there would nobody who would go like, no, that's not true. It's such a natural thing for people to accept that Sachin is a god because he's the best cricket player. That's how big we're talking about. And the second thing is WWE. It is the second most famous sport. And in 2000, it was in 2012 as well. And nobody in all of those 1.3 billion people knew what do you do to be a wrestler? So then start, how did I become a wrestler? Then start my regional trips to the north, the whole north of India. How do you be a wrestler? So I found out this one stadium that did wrestling, but they didn't write Olympic wrestling. They only wrote wrestling. So I thought maybe there's hope. So I would go there, meet with them, and they go, "What the hell are you talking about? We we do either kushti, which is like hundreds and hundreds years old actual wrestling sport, which is like the professional version is Olympic sport. Because in my country, wrestling, the Olympic wrestling has been around for like hundreds and hundreds and like hundreds of years. So which is called kushti, which is like wrestle in mud in like a ring. They make like a round thing. They just dug up, make mud soft so nobody broke their bones. But I went to a lot of places. I went to stadiums. I went to private coaches. I went to everywhere, and everybody was basically doing Olympic wrestling. Nobody heard about it. Uh, so that's 5.5 months of me just traveling all around North India, and people going, "What the hell are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about." I'm going, "Do you watch WWE?" And I go, "Yeah." And I go, "I want to do that." And they go, "Why the hell are you here for?" I have no idea. I myself have no idea how do they do what they do. Maybe you should go to America. That's the thing I keep getting. People because WWE is in America. You should just go to America. And I go, I'm 17 and a half. Do you understand that while you're saying to me to go to America? And also, I'm not rich. My dad is not like a freaking Indian Maharaja kind of billionaire dude. That's not true. I'm just from a normal family. It's not like they can bring up like freaking hundreds of thousands of dollars and go like, you go America. I can't do that. So I found by just pure luck, one dude by like connections from connections who had a ring in his backyard because he was a super WWE fan. So he had a ring because he was a super WWE fan, and he thought I could make a shitload of money if I have here a ring and I could do something with it. So he made a ring. I think he got help from somebody to somebody. I don't know, but he made a ring, and he had a ring in his backyard, which was just sitting there because nobody was doing anything with it. So I found that dude, and my luck would have it that the day I went to visit him, another equally stupid dude who was from Jammu and Kashmir also visited him. His name was Zorro. So Zorro also came in one day before me and left. And the next day I showed up. No. Oh, yeah. I came and he goes, nobody's there. And if somebody comes in, I'll let you know. Because you can't wrestle alone. Like, what you going to do? Just bust your head into the mat? So you need one other person. They go, we have nobody. So like, I'm like, okay, if somebody comes, shoot to me. And the next day, Zorro shows up and asks him the same question. And he goes, I knew one dude who was here yesterday. And he called me up. So I go there and we meet. So now there's two of us. And that starts 18-month, every day, 6 days a week, of us paying that dude monthly so we can use his ring and just beat the hell out of each other, trying to find ways that we can do proper wrestling. We would watch, like, no joke, we had every DVD ever produced about becoming a wrestler. No joke. We had there's actually one video, you can find it. Antonio Inoki did a display of how New Japan Dojo runs their shows. We were used to do Marty Jannetty videos to see like how do they do chain wrestling, and we used to find out WWE did documentaries. They did Tough Enough. We would watch all of those seasons, and we would just go back and forth. We would watch a move, do it, and it would hurt like hell. Like it would be crazy, and then we go, you know what? There could be a better way to do this. Like we were just lab rats for each other. And which really helped is because what I liked in wrestling was very different from what Zoro liked wrestling. So we would just, what he loved, he would do with me and I would help him. And what I loved to do, he would help me. I like more explosive and I would like more momentum kind of wrestling. I would like fast wrestling. And he was in love with like classic British style. So combined, we covered all of it. And 1.5 year, no joke, 6 days a week, twice a day, one time physical, we would just do that. No shows. I made my debut, I think 2 years and 3 months since the day I started wrestling, because there was no promotions where I could wrestle to.
Dude, that's mind-blowing.
Crazy, right?
Imagine
how stupid that dude is. If somebody says, I'm going to do this to you.
Man, let me translate this to Spanish. Él menciona que cuando él ingresa o decide ingresar a la industria, no había lucha. Él estuvo 5 meses y medio únicamente en Northern India, en la parte norte de India, buscando, searching a ver quién rayos sabía. Coaches y arenas y personas que trabajaban Olympic Wrestling, a todo el mundo le preguntaba, ¿qué quieres hacer? Pues quiero hacer WWE. Pues, ¿qué rayos haces aquí? Yo no sé nada de eso. Vete a América. Y como dice, como que mi papá no es un maharaja billonario que puede soltar cientos de miles de dólares, como que vete a América y vive tu sueño. Es como que no. Y él tuvo la suerte de que consiguió una persona con un cuadrilátero en su patio, porque él era bien fanático de WWE y decidió construir un cuadrilátero. Menciona que el cricket es el deporte número 1 en India, que la figura principal son casi como dioses, son casi como gods. Y en segundo lugar, para WWE, como el deporte nacional, o pro wrestling, y nadie sabía cómo hacerlo. Una cosa lleva a la otra. Ahí también había una persona de Jammu y Kashmir, que era una región allí en India, que decide también ser luchador, y ambos hablan con esta persona que tenía un ring en su patio sin usar, que se estaba ahí perdiendo, y todos los días, 6 días consecutivos a la semana, por 1 año y medio, ellos entrenaron lucha libre en ese backyard. Todos los días, 6 días consecutivos a la semana, 1 año y medio, nada de lucha libre profesional. Se sentaban a ver videos de Antonio Inoki, de Marty Jannetty, los seasons de Tough Enough de WWE, y todo esto para poder entonces saber cómo aprender lucha libre, porque no hay lucha libre. No había nada de pro wrestling en India. Y tocó, pues hay que aprender, hay que hacerlo por nosotros mismos. Entonces a su compañero le gustaban unas cosas del British Wrestling y a él le gustaban la parte del entretenimiento, básicamente. Y entonces lo que hacían era se ayudaban unos a los otros para poder entrenarse ellos mismos a ser luchadores, y le pagaban una renta mensual a la persona. When, like, there's no wrestling, how do you do your pro wrestling debut?
Okay, that's also a very crazy story. So once I was done training, because I feel like after 18 months of doing it every day, I realized something has to change. Because if I stay here and keep doing this, there's no next step. So I started to send messages I started to talk to like other people where the countries where I might find a wrestler, and I talked to a Japanese promotion. There was a promotion called Apache, which was like a very independent promotion. Not anymore. It ended in very soon. But there was a particular person there, and I messaged him, and like, I'm from India and I do this, and if someday it's possible that when I come to Japan, would it be all right to like if I manage with you? And he go, yeah, we would love to show up, and we have like dojo class, like we have practice sessions. You can join us. And I go, because he was very positive about it. So I go, would you mind helping me get there? If you are welcoming enough that you would let me be a part of your classes, would you mind like giving me, let's just say, an invitation letter so I can at least have a case to go to Japan. And he go, of course. And he go, but because we are talking with Google Translate, because he only speaks Japanese, and I can only talk to him in English. English even barely at that point, because I wasn't that good in English either. I was 19 at that point. So I talked to him and he goes, okay, do you know somebody Japanese who can like help us out so we can talk? And I go, hold on, let me find out. So I talk with anybody I knew, my friends and everybody. And a cousin of mine was working for a Japanese company, and he had a Japanese friend who was living in Delhi. So imagine that I was living in Punjab at that point, Jalandhar, which is like a heart of Punjab. That's why I speak Punjabi, by the way. So I went to Delhi, talked to him, and he goes, okay, I'll translate for you guys. And I get them in contact. Long story short, I apply for the Japanese visa. After 3 to 4 months, I've moved to Delhi now so I can work. I stopped my everyday training for 18 months and I moved to Delhi. So because I have a hope that I can go to Japan and maybe wrestle actually, or maybe at least practice with the people who are professionals. Because up until now, the biggest, after like 1 year of training, that's something that stuck to and got very close to my heart as an insecurity was, am I doing it right? Because the only point of reference I have is Zoro, who's basically my half teacher as I am his half, basically, because both of us are self-taught. We really don't know. Like, maybe I'm just doing it wrong. And by the way, this is stupid. In the beginning, we started watching from Mexico. So we learned everything right-handed.
Oh,
like right-handed lockups.
Opposite side.
Yes. So at 4 months mark, we found out, because we started watching Japanese stuff, that in America and in Japan, it's left-handed. So we have to learn everything from zero after 4 months. But because of that, I can wrestle both type now.
Oh, nice.
I can wrestle right as good as I can wrestle left. So like left is, I'm more used to it now because I've been doing it all this time, but I know all of the right stuff because in the starting 4 months, all I did was go right. But because of that, I moved to Delhi and I talked to them. It took me a lot because I didn't really know anything about visas or immigration or anything. And a visa of India, a passport of India, let's just say it doesn't really help. Like, to say the least, it doesn't help. I'm 19, I apply for the visa and the Japanese, with their help, and they're welcoming, they give me dates like you can have a match here or this is our schedule for the dojo and all. So I'm really happy. I'm like, I'm going to freaking Japan. I by that point, I'm in love with Japanese wrestling. To me, it seems like this type of wrestling will suit me. It would suit the kind of wrestler I imagine that I might be. It suits my strong points, I thought, at least. So I apply there and the Japanese embassy says no. And when an embassy says no to you, when you have an Indian visa, you cannot reapply in the 6 months. 6 months, you cannot even reapply. Forget about trying to get it. And because you have been denied once, that stucks to your record as well. So the next time you apply is twice as hard because you've already been rejected. So I thought, even if I apply in 6 months, it's not going to happen. So I have determined myself now, okay, going to Japan in the near future is impossible because I'm very realistic. It might seem like I'm a dreamer because the way I've introduced myself to wrestling, but I'm also very realistic. I think logically most of the time. So I decided, okay, I'm going to have to do something here till I can go to Japan. So I started talking to people about doing shows. I talked to a lot of people. I talk anybody, and because because WWE looks like Hollywood to India. There's no difference between Hollywood and WWE, by the way. John Cena is as big a star as, let's just say, Iron Man is in India. No joke, because same level of stardom. So it's like you imagining that you're gonna make a Hollywood movie when you think about doing a wrestling show. It's different now because we have like schools and everything, but at that point it was such a lucrative thing. So people will say they want to do this, but they have no idea how to do it. They don't even know what wrestling is. So I go to people, they would talk to me, they will do this, and I will talk to them about wrestling, and they know nothing. And I go, smack my head, and then I would come back. I did that for 6 months. And now while I was doing the Japanese visa, I was kind of doing this, but then I really started doing this. So now it is 2015 and I still haven't wrestled. By the way, I started training in 2012, December of 2012, and this is 2015 now, and I still haven't wrestled anywhere. So one of the dudes who I have met like 6 months ago when I was starting to talk to people, messages me and says, I'm doing a wrestling show. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, I'm doing a wrestling show. And I'm going, you serious? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, okay. And he goes, I can't promise you can wrestle in it or not, but if you want to come, you can come. And I go, of course I'm coming. And I go there. So what he has done is, if you remember, TNA shows up in India once.
Yeah,
in 2011, I think.
Yep.
And they had like a few Indian guys, and they had they actually brought in cricket celebrities, and they tried to do a big thing to challenge WWE because India was a very big market. To this day is. So what they did was they got 6 like bodybuilder-ish dudes who were like wrestling fans, and they trained them. And let me say this very seriously, 15 days. No, 2 weeks, not even 15 days. They trained them for 2 weeks, and they made them do shows they made them do matches on TV. All of the people who you saw in that, it's called Ring of King actually.
Yeah.
So TNA did that. Yeah. And they trained those guys for 2 weeks, and then they did matches. So he had 2 of those dudes who 4 years ago had training of 2 weeks in wrestling, and then they were just doing their normal lives, had jobs and everything. He bought them. 2 of the people were bodybuilders, because as I said, nobody knows how to be a wrestler.
No,
everybody just goes into bodybuilding. So 2 guys who have trained for 2 weeks 4 years ago, and 2 bodybuilders and me. I show up. I'm not on the show, by the way, originally. So they had a planned shows, and I go, so what? I'm like, I start talking to him, and I realize nobody has any idea what wrestling is, and we are still going on to do a show. So one dude shows up there who has worked with WWE before for their merch. His name was Vinayak Sodhi. We call him Vince as a joke, which by the way stuck, and we still call him that. Because his starting name is literally Vinayak. I just call him Vince as a joke. But he knew about wrestling. He always wanted to be a promoter. He always wanted to do that. And he shows up to produce the show, because he's the only body that I know, apart from myself and Zorro, who knows anything about wrestling and has actually worked with wrestling. He's actually worked on Ring of King as well, backstage with TNA. He knew about the industry. He shows up, he started talking, realizes nobody knows anything, and he goes to me, and I go, so what are we going to do? And he realized this dude knows stuff. So now me and Vince start talking, Vinayak. And the more I talk, the more he goes, of course you're in the show. And my standing goes higher and higher. So we do the match, long story short. It's a 48-minute match of wrestling. No joke, only one wrestle, only one match, 5-way of only I know how to wrestle. So you can imagine it's a F-fest. It is incredible. I think if I ever became something, that match will be legendary. I would never have a match that would be more than that. It's 48 minutes of 5 dudes. Only I know how to wrestle. And by the way, all of them is over 110 kilograms because they're bodybuilders. They are huge dudes, like freaking humongous. And I am there because I was very fit at that point. I was young as well, but I was very fit. So I'm there like 70 kilograms. Everybody's like twice my size. So that's my debut. But the match happened because Vinayak showed up there. The show wasn't actually going to go cancel because nobody knew what to do. So he produced the show. The match happens because I'm there. But I now know Vinayak. Both of us talk. He never had a wrestler, so he couldn't start a promotion. And I never knew how to start it. I never had a promoter, so I couldn't start it. So me and Vinayak together start a company so I can wrestle. and that company's name is Russell Square. And to this, we started in 2015, March, I think, because I wrestled in 27th of January, I think, or 28th of January. And we met in February. In March, we do our first show with Russell Square, and we started touring India and doing shows. By the way, that same Russell Square did a TV show in 2018 on a national TV, 12-episode series where I was the main guy. I traveled from Japan back to India for 2 weeks, and we taped a 12-episode series, same Russell Square. Oh, you have no idea how that felt. And it was on the, by the way, it was on the same TV channel, Eurosport, which AW is going to. At that moment, they had ROH, New Japan, Lucha Underground, and but you can't win over like TV producers. They named the show Dangal Ke Surma, which literally translates to like in English would be something called like Indian Gladiators. Like, but you can't win there. You have to give something. So it was a 12-episode series, and we did that with the same company, Russell Square. Oh, that's actually the TV show that my friend told you about when we met.
Yeah, read you. Y así es como se convierten en un luchador profesional en India sin tener nada. O sea, el segundo deporte nacional, básicamente. Todo el mundo quería ser luchador, nadie sabía cómo hacerlo. Y de momento viene este muchacho con un sueño que descubre a alguien que tiene un cuadrilátero en su patio, después de mucho esfuerzo, después de mucho trayecto, 5 meses y medio buscando quién rayos lo entrenara, 1 año y medio entrenándolo, frustraciones porque le cancelan el visaje en Japón, no puede irse de momento, descubre lucha libre, se muda 6 meses más a India, en New Delhi específicamente, en la capital, vive un periodo de tiempo ahí, vivió un periodo de tiempo en Punjab, que así es que de hecho aprende a hablar los 2 idiomas, todo persiguiendo un sueño hasta que finalmente lo consigue, llega el momento de su debut y en su debut hace 48 minutos de lucha con unos bodybuilders que fueron entrenados por 2 semanas, que no sabían lucha libre, simplemente se veían bien y pues los decidieron entrenar con el productor de Ring King de TNA en India. Es simplemente mind blowing. Man, this is basically the first part of our interview, and before we go, I wanted to ask you a last question.
Okay.
48 minutes debut match. What went through your mind immediately after that match? You were training for this and you were ready for this 3 years before it happened. So how do you feel making your pro wrestling debut?
2 things to note. First of all, I was 19 and a half. I haven't turned 20 yet.
Okay.
By the way,
2
I'm
years,
19 and a half years old. I am a stamina beast because all I've done is freaking train for 6 days a week for 1.5 years. So you cannot get me tired no matter what you do. I'm freaking crazy at that point. I'm in incredible shape. Probably the best shape other than when I showed up to Japan this year. Because I had to put on weight because everybody's huge here as well. So I'm in, and the starting 10 minutes is horrible. They beat the shit out of me. Everybody was huge, and then I go, okay, I understand why this is going. I remember finishing the match, getting thrown out of a top rope at 48 minutes, and standing on the ringside. And yelling out, just pumped with adrenaline. Crazy. My ears are red, my eyes are red. I have bruises all over me. My mouth is bleeding. I literally went to like fighting a freaking crowd on this road for 48 minutes. I'm in crazy state. I remember standing on the apron and yelling, I'm the best thing that could have happened to this sport in India. I will be the 1 in a billion. You people better watch. And I storm off. No joke, I said that. And even while I was having an out of body experience almost. Because I remember this. I was physically, I was almost crazy at that point. I'm running on pure adrenaline at that point because I literally fought for my life for like 48 minutes. But on that apron, I could almost see myself saying it and feeling like, what the hell am I saying? But I said that. I said, I'm the best thing that could have happened to this business in this country. I'm going to be the one in a billion. You people better watch. And I stormed off. No joke. To this day, like everything in my hands and my neck is standing. Even when I say this, I have butterflies in my stomach right now. Just imagine, because I could see I really could see myself from like out of body experience. I saw it was crazy. I've never been in that state in my life ever before or after, because I could literally pass out. I was that much damaged bodily, and I was that much hyped up in adrenaline. And I said that, and everything else after that was just this.
Dude, let me translate this to Spanish. Él dice que posterior a su lucha, él acaba con los ojos rojos, colorados, hinchados, la oreja, todo aquí hinchado, la boca rota, nariz rota, todo desbaratado. Y tuvo esta experiencia fuera del cuerpo, que fue su debut en los cuadriláteros, 48 minutos de lucha. Se para y mira a la cámara y le dice: yo soy lo mejor que le ha pasado a India en esta industria. Yo voy a ser el 1 en 1 billón. Yo voy a ser esa persona. Y se marchó. Irónicamente, se convirtió en 1 en 1 billón, porque The Great Khali llega a WWE directamente porque era un bodybuilder y medía 7'3". El resto de las personas que vemos como Jinder Mahal y como el resto nacieron en Canadá, en India, nacido, born and raised en India. No había nada. La primera empresa que se crea para que él tuviera un foro de lucha libre. Y así es como se crea la primera superestrella internacional de pro wrestling, de lucha libre independiente, y el inicio de la lucha libre independiente que nosotros conocemos hoy día en India. Baliyan Akki lo hizo. 48 minutos de lucha, 2 años y pico luchando para poder concretar su debut. 19 años y medio tenía en aquel momento dado. Visa rechazada, le cierran las puertas aquí, le cierran las puertas acá. ¿Qué rayos es eso? Yo no sé. Así se persigue un sueño y así se concreta. Baliyan, this is the first part of our interview.
I'm so sorry I had to extend it.
Dude, no, this is perfect because it happens in countries in Latin America like Nicaragua, or countries that, for example, Nicaragua didn't have any wrestling until this year. A few months, a few weeks ago, the first show was brought from Costa Rica to Nicaragua. And I remember somebody sent me a DM saying, hey, this is the first show, the first independent wrestling show in Nicaragua's history. And I'm going like, is there any Nicaraguan wrestlers? Yes, there's 2. But have they wrestled before? No. This is the first time doing it. So it blows my mind because it happens in Nicaragua a few weeks ago. And it's definitely, it happens in India with you, man. And your story is so rich. We will get to that part in a few weeks for our fans.
Of course.
Until now, pueden seguir, let me say this in Spanish, pueden seguir a Baliyan Akki en todas sus redes sociales, Instagram, en Facebook, en Twitter, como Baliyan Akki, Baliyan Akki. Aquí le va a aparecer a la parte de abajo. Para todos los promotores en todas partes del mundo, la primera superestrella independiente en salir de India lo pueden contratar a través de baliyanakki@gmail.com, baliyanakki@gmail.com, y ahí lo pueden verificar. Actualmente militando en Choco Pro Wrestling. Choco Pro Wrestling lo pueden disfrutar también en Japón. Vamos a llegar ya mismo eventualmente a esa parte de la entrevista, y los pueden buscar a través de YouTube como Gato Move en YouTube, Gato Move en Facebook, también están disponibles. Échenles un ojo, Gato Move en YouTube y en Facebook, va a aparecer aquí abajo en la descripción. Y en la segunda parte vamos a estar discutiendo qué es lucha libre en Nepal, qué es lucha libre en Singapur, qué es lucha libre en China, en Japón, en India, en Malasia, Tailandia, toda esta área de Asia que tal vez pensamos que no había lucha libre. Hay lucha libre. Hay lucha libre en Nepal, hay lucha libre en Malasia, hay lucha libre en Singapur, hay lucha libre en Tailandia, en China, en Japón, en todas partes. este hombre ha estado ahí, fue uno de los pioneros en ello. Así que vamos a estar discutiéndolo más adelante. Baliyan, thank you very much for your time, man. It's been an
Oh, thank you
honor.
very, very much, guys. Thank you very, very much. Muchas gracias, senor.
It's been an honor to have you as our guest, man. Thank you very much. Always wishing you success in your career. And
Thank you very much.
let's wrap this up in Spanish, en español. Este fue el pionero de la lucha libre india, Baliyan Akki y Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online, la marca número 1 de Pro Wrestling y Combat Sports en español.